Webb Evans, you gonna have a 100th birthday soon?
That's right. God's been good to me. 100 years here. I don't know what the future holds for me, but it's sure been good to me in the past.
You know, 100 years is a long time. You know that.
No, it's all the way you look at it. For on this side, 100 years is a long time. When you compare it with eternity, or just a few days.
But in these few days you've been here on the planet Earth, how have things changed since you've been a little boy, as it pertains to us, we Negroes, and now we call ourselves African Americans? You know what I'm saying? How things have changed?
There are some things that have changed, and then some look like going backward. They said black people are progressing, but here in Chicago, I can't find a black-owned service station. And that's the wrong kind of change. And then it's around about it's around about another million black here, and you can't hardly find a black-owned grocery store. There's one at 107 on Halsted, and that's a Save-A-Lot, a franchise. So at least got one out there. For a while, out of all the blacks in Chicago, we didn't have one black-owned grocery store. That's a shame before God.
So, Mr. Evans, how long have you been encouraging African Americans to spend money amongst each other?
Just about all my life. I started publicly speaking when I was 17. And at one time in life, when we were segregated, we spent money with black. We had to spend it with, because white people didn't want our money to look like it then. But now, we've got this stuff called integration. And what we've done, to me, well, first I want to say, we are some of the smartest people in the world. I don't know what your history tells you, but it tells me that black people, 85% of the invention of the world was done by black. But here in 2013, with nearly 1 million blacks in Chicago, and I can't find a black-owned service station. Can't find but one grocery store that's a franchise. That's at 107 on Halsted. And I think that's a shame. I think the church got to start teaching more than spirituality. We got to teach them reality. You got to have some business. I don't know of any people in the world that got anywhere without business.
Well, you know, you said that it was a time that African Americans, we were probably coloreds and Negroes back in the day, we had to do business among each other, with each other.
Well, that was the stupid. That's what I said. We're some of the smartest people in the world done some of the stupidest things. Just what you said. That was a time when in the black neighborhood, at least you had black-owned businesses. But then when the white man, we got out here with integration, make the white man give us a job. Now we done spend all our money with people who live out the neighborhood, and then we're gonna get together, instead of spending our money with them, let us make them give us a job. Why make them give us a job? Spend your money with your people. You create the job. You have the job and the business. That just, it shouldn't take rocket science for a person to see that. And with all our religious leaders, we don't seem to see it.
Webb Evans, 50 years ago, the African American unemployment was twice as much as the European American, i.e. white folks. Our unemployment has always been twice as much as their unemployment. Do you think our unemployment is twice as much as European Americans, i.e. white people? Is because, one reason is because we don't spend money, we don't do business with each other.
Well, that was 100 little children. And I was reading this in the paper, this was in the press. And they asked him, what would they rather be? They showed him a white doll and a black doll. They want to know which one they liked the best. They chose the white doll.
Yeah.
Now, if that child chose a white doll that he liked best, then he go into a white business when he grew up to get his clothes clean. He go into a white business to buy his groceries. He go into a white business to do other things. And then there's a myth. There's a myth going around is destroying good black-owned business. That is, that myth is black won't treat you right. Black price is higher. Now, I wish I had brought that paper with me to show you that 58% of the business in Chicago are ripping people off, and that's not my report. That's the citizen report. They make a survey at least once every year. And the last survey I had, they said that the business in Chicago, the first time was 40%. But as business got sort of bad, it went up to 50%. 58% of the business in Chicago are ripping people off. But guess what? Now, I know some blacks will rip you off, but you don't see one black name on there. Walgreens on there. Radio Shack's on there. Jewel's on there. All those places, and I think Walgreens and Jewel about the biggest rip-off, and those are places that people think they're getting big as a break. Now, what the big cause that they can do that, and that is ready-packed meat and the scanner. Now, according to the press, there are some businesses run a sale on the shelf and don't change the scanner. And that's how to be ripping people off. And then you go into some of these stores, they went into one of Dominic's stores and found 5 packages in there that didn't have the weight in it. So you don't get your meat and take it home and weigh it, you take it home and cook it. And you don't have the weight in it, they can rip you off. And then that scanner there, you got one price on the shelf, according to the press, only 15% of the people compare that shelf price with the scanner price.
Well, I know I don't. But
it's not a million, but it's over $1 billion a year. This is the press. It's over $1 billion a year more is coming out on the scanner than what's on the shelf.
Well, Mr. Evans, I'm talking to you. You're a community activist. I'm talking to you. I don't have a relationship with black-owned businesses. Black-owned businesses don't do business with each other. They don't reach out to people like me to get on my little TV show to promote their business. So I'm saying black businesses don't promote African-American-owned businesses. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand well.
You know what I'm saying,
Same
right?
old myth. Come to say that
But
same old myth.
it's true though. I've been doing this show for over 20 years. I probably had 1 or 2 African-American entrepreneurs on the show. And those I met off camera, a lot of them people are arrogant and nasty.
Well, I have a book out. And what caused me to write, the Spirit caused me to write this book. I said, I've been here now, this year will be 100 years. And I've given my life, not for money, but to try to wake my people up. Now, what can I do for the coming generation? The Spirit says, write a book. And I wrote that book, How Blacks Can Get Off the Economic Bottom, in order that our young people can read the mistakes that we've made, and they won't make the same mistake. Every generation should make it better for the other generation. And I'm saying now that blacks should stop the killing and start building. Because what you're saying goes right back to the same thing. They figure blacks ain't gonna treat you right.
But that myth is perpetuated by, that perception is I can't say it. It's borne out by the truth. You know, the bottom line is that if we on TV right now, I'm going to put your phone number up. I bet you I couldn't get 10 African-American businesses to call this show right now to say, I want to work with Webb Evans. I want to work with Mark Sims. Let's get this movement started.
Because see, the thing about it, I started in marching on the 8th Field of Randolph. And I marched out with King in Washington, and I think it was August the 28th, 1963. And I marched with him in Washington. I was with him in other places. And since that time, I marched with Lou Palmer. I marched with Eddie Reed. I marched with Reverend Jesse Jackson in Chicago, Decatur, Illinois, Atlanta, Georgia, marching. But the biggest mistake in all our marching, we haven't learned to march with each other with our dollars.
Yeah, that's true. So how do we get that movement going? In 2013, when we're least Afrocentric than we were even 20 years ago. We're not as nationalistic as we were 40 years ago. Although a lot of our children go to segregated schools, we seem to be consciously more integrated than we have ever been. What do we do?
Well, integration hasn't helped us. I speak to 20 or 25 pastors every week. Every Tuesday, I'm speaking to the pastors' conference. As to, I think the greatest leaders we could have for directing business and black-owned business is the black church.
The church.
And the black church is not doing it. There's nothing wrong for them to tell us how good when we get to heaven, but we need to be getting out of some of the hell we in on earth. And I don't see our church doing a good enough job at that. I see the black church, I don't think at anything we attend more than the black church. And we go there and sing, we live together, we sing and shout together. And when you get ready to spend your money, you got to go to white people. That's just about as stupid can be.
So do you think that should the African-American churches begin to place more of their money in African American owned banks.
Do I think that African church putting the money in the African bank?
Yeah.
No. That's why the minister can't tell you to put yours in there because he ain't putting the church money in.
So should he put the church money in first in the black owned bank?
No. They going to the white bank. That's why they can't tell the members to go to the blacks.
So why don't they go to the black owned bank?
Slave mentality.
Slave mentality.
Slave mentality. Ain't nothing any worse than slave mentality other than slavery itself. And that's what black people are suffering now, the after effects of slavery. That, in fact, a lot of people saying Abraham freed us. Abraham didn't free us. He stopped white people from owning us.
Yeah.
And then they came over the black code. I'm quite sure you read the black code. What kind of freedom you got if you can't sell anything? What kind of freedom you got if you can't own any livestock? What kind of freedom you got if you can't vote? And then there was a little minister, and they called him the jackleg minister, because he didn't have any members. He had his church in his house. And some of them they lynched him, and some of them they ran him out because he was teaching the people, we are not free yet. We can't vote. We can't own any business. We can't sell anything. What kind of freedom is this? And that little minister, they ran him out of town. Some of them they lynched. And right today, we're suffering from after-slave effect. And then the most popular church we had, a lot of people don't realize that. The most popular church we had after slavery was a church that was financed by white. Now you just come out of slavery now, and with a man own you, and now do you think he's gonna help you to be free? No. Many of our first religious leaders were taught by their former slave masters what to tell us. To tell us the suffering of this world, and then the joy we're going to have in the other world. And I'm thinking that God wants us to do something right here on this earth. He wants us to have whatever this earth affords us. He wants us to enjoy this world. He wants us to enjoy one another here. Don't wait to get to heaven. I think we should treat one another better here. And I always said, right now through this time, we need to do something to stop this killing. Young people from killing. I don't ever remember. I went to the grammar school. I went to high school. I went to college. Now, I don't remember any of us getting killed. And now and then, every time I pick up the paper, somebody got killed. Life just doesn't have any value anymore. We valued life when I was coming up as a child. I don't remember anybody getting killed. Big thing, big difference now. But now here it is that you own a business. Let's look how stupid this is. You own the business. The business is yours. And here comes a man that was not giving you a job. When I came to Chicago, most black people were dusting shelves and put a stock on the shelf. So then we start picking them to make them higher. And they start hiring us as managers, hiring us as supervisors. And now you know what they're doing? They hiring us to run the whole store. You can go right today in 86 and Cottage Grove, and I doubt you'll hardly see a white person in there. Do the same thing at 63rd and Cane Drive, you won't hardly see a white person in there. There's a grocery store at 47th and Cottage Grove, you won't see a white person in there. But all those businesses are owned by white. So now, if all those businesses are in our neighborhood, owned by white, being run by black, then why can't we put up some money and let them run it for us? And the church should take the leadership in that. I still think the greatest institution we got for bringing about a change in this country is the church, and we will do it. But we're not we're not teaching economics in our religion.
But the purpose of economics, not to cut you off, the purpose of economics is for African Americans to have an economic base. And thus we can reduce unemployment and fund our own. I know, but the purpose of having black-owned businesses is to develop an economic base, thus fund our own institutions, thus solve our own problems. That's what you do, right?
But ain't no race gonna get anywhere without business. Yeah. I tell all the people that you got to own something. You got to own. You can't control what other people own. Now, right now, in this city, in the black community, other people own it. We just live here. But in Chinatown, Chinese own it. They run it, they own it, and they get all the profit from what is sold in it. So we just live here, and all the profits from the business going out the neighborhood. So that's making the other neighborhood wealthy while we're getting poor. We are dying from a disease called poverty.